Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor. Today I wanted to talk to you about some of the really big things that are happening, but what I consider to on the short-term horizon be the big one. But first, I wanted to cover a couple of things that are huge pieces of news about cryptocurrencies in general. The first was from the other day that a group of these companies in the cryptocurrency industry are getting together to form a lobbying arm for cryptocurrency, and they included Digital Currency Group, the Polychain Capital, Circle, and Coinbase. And so when you start seeing this, ground zero for money in the world is Washington, D.C. In fact, I think I saw one time, if you actually look where physically the most money in the United States is, it's not a coincidence that it's centered in Washington, D.C. And the second that different industries begin to throw money at these politicians, you know what happens then. Of course, I believe that a lot of this is already being done, but this is the first time I've just physically seen an article of that they're formally doing it. But that's big. The second thing I wanted to show you was I keep telling you about Liechtenstein. Liechtenstein is and the countries right now are that are trying to become ground zero for blockchain is Liechtenstein, and you have Malta, you have Zug, Switzerland, and then you have Gibraltar. Well, this article is about how Liechtenstein is working on their blockchain act. They're getting ahead of all this regulation. I wish that the SEC would take a page from them. But in this article, it basically is telling you that they're getting all their ducks in a row so that the big, huge institutional investors can come in. And one of the guy that runs the Liechtenstein, their cryptocurrency exchange. Let me get down here and see if I can see what it was called. I've covered it before. I'm just drawing a blank on what it was called. Anyway, he mentions in here that the reason that Liechtenstein will be so much more appealing than the other places. He said it'll work against places like Malta and Gibraltar because they started as being places to go for online gambling, and he said that will taint them. Whereas Liechtenstein, it has a AAA rating and they're well connected. He says Liechtenstein, it's the Liechtenstein Crypto Assets Exchange. And he says that they're AAA rated and they have a great reputation across the world. In other words, all of the wealthiest people in the world have their money in Liechtenstein. And so they are setting up to bring in the institutional money, and I'm sure they're already beginning to bring it in. But that is an important thing right there, because the overall important thing with that is if crypto was this pariah, the way the JP Morgans and all these companies across the world tried to tell you it was, and if it was so scary and so awful, these people wouldn't be gearing up. These are the biggest money people in the world that are gearing up to get into crypto. They're coming. All right. Before I go to the main piece of news I wanted to cover with you, I wanted to show you this. This is by Bank XRP on Twitter, at Bank XRP. Go follow him. He's really good, XRP Twitter. But he posted this: Ripple rides again at FinTech Payments and Cryptos Unbound 2018. 10 years is a long time frame. My key lesson from last year is there's a pivotal shift in the crypto space right now. Now, I went and listened to this, and I wanted to give you a little summary of what he said. What he said is that when crypto began, the thought pattern was that you would this could replace fiat, and that Bitcoin, you would go in and you would buy a cup of coffee with Bitcoin one day. Well, he said that the shift is going away from that. And in my opinion, he didn't come out and say it, but this shift specifically shows you how XRP is going to be huge with this. He says that the move now and what you're going to see, he said over the next year, you're going to see a complete shift, and it's going to go towards digital assets connecting fiat currencies. Think interledger protocol, which was invented by Ripple. And that's what he's talking about, is the connection of fiat currencies across the world for cross-border payments and cross-border money transfers through the interledger protocol. And don't think that a lot of that money won't be moving through XRP or moved with XRP because it's the fastest. And then he said the other shift that you're going to see within this year is going to be the shift towards use case, to where you see digital assets finally actually being used instead of just being a speculation item. So, all right, well, I wanted to show you that, but I titled this Ripple XRP and the big one, and the reason I did, I've talked to you about this before, but this article is the best article I've found, and I want you to go read it. It's the icojournal.com, and it's about the backed exchange. And the title here, it says, nothing else comes close to what backed will mean for Bitcoin. And while I read this, I'm going to read a part of this. And while I read it, I want you to be thinking, this is not happening sometime next year. This is not happening in 5 years. This is not even happening in months. These guys, the backed exchange is going live in November, is what they said. November. And also, while I'm reading this to you, I want you to think about this. Backed is not the only one doing this. The NASDAQ is also planning an exchange. And they're going to do it sooner rather than later as well, because they're a competitor. Okay, what in this article, they got a snippet here from a hedge fund, a crypto hedge fund manager. And I want you to hear this loudly, what he says. Nothing else on the horizon comes close to what backed will mean for Bitcoin. Now, when they say Bitcoin in here, as I tell you all the time, Bitcoin is a code word for the crypto industry, and they use Bitcoin. Yeah, it'll be the first, but it won't be. They will discover the better digital assets just like you and I did, as these traders and all of the institutional money and the average retail investors come into all of this. They too will realize, well, why would I put my money in Bitcoin when it's slow and all this, when I could put it in this XRP over here, get it for a cheaper price, and it's got more benefits that come with it. It's faster, more scalable, etc. Okay, I'm going to read it now. Nothing else on the horizon comes close to what backed will mean for Bitcoin. The depth and breadth of the ICE Intercontinental Exchange Network and exchange ecosystem means that adoption trading volumes will skyrocket overnight. The same pipes and structures that allow Goldman, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, among a horde of others, to trade billions in commodities like gold, silver, soybeans, and corn will be the same architecture used to trade Bitcoin. Think of it this way. With the custody and warehouse facility solved inside Back's infrastructure, you have solved the final issue that institutions have been clamoring for in the digital asset space. Their Bitcoin transactions and investments are safe via the warehouse facility, and the ability to go claim their Bitcoin straight from the warehouse should they allow their position to mature to that point. Rather than physical Bitcoin per se, you are getting access to Bitcoin being housed in an uber-protected, heavily secure facility that will hold the digital asset as a backstop for Bitcoin. That is what the Novogratz of the world and the Goldman and the JP Morgan have been clamoring for. And then they went down further and they talked to a second hedge fund manager. And he says, institutional trading and recognition of Bitcoin as a legitimate asset class is what Back brings to the table. The legitimate, not smoke and mirrors, to brand like the New York Stock Exchange, Microsoft, and family of ICE exchanges is infinitely bigger than a Bitcoin ETF approval. An ETF approval might make headlines, but you are about to watch crypto trade desks metastasize across Wall Street, connected directly to what Bakkt is providing all of us. I wanted to read those snippets to you because the world is about to change, and I want to make sure that you're on board this train, because this is going to be massive. I am the digital asset investor. I am not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. If you have not subscribed to my channel, hit the subscribe button now. Get your friends and family to listen as well. Do not take my word for everything. Go read these articles that I show you. What I say is one thing, but read the article yourself. Go read all of those quotes. Read the whole thing. This is not just me talking. The lords of finance are coming to crypto, and you and I beat them to it, and we get to benefit. What exciting times we live in. Thank you for listening.